What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate, reverse rants, no hate. So I want to talk a little bit about Erol Spence Jr. Now, looking at Erol Spence Jr.'s accomplishments, looking at how hungry Erol Spence once was, and the simple fact that Erol Spence was calling out everyone, and everybody, he wanted everybody. And people gave, it was a time where fighters were calling out other names, but they wasn't calling out Erol Spence. But then when his name came up, they were always trying to refer to him as like the new kid on the block. Like, he hasn't earned his spot yet. And basically, once you see a guy in a fight where you see vulnerabilities, you see something you feel like you could exploit, that's when all of a sudden now, I'll fight Erol Spence or whoever the fighter is. And that's just how things went with him. And he managed to stay undefeated up until he fought Terrence Crawford. Now, looking at how things were going, you start to notice how fighters go from being super hungry, starving, to, we can get it. Wait. At one point, it was, definitely, I want that fight. I want that fight like yesterday. I want that fight now. We can make it happen. To, we can get it. We can. In other words, it goes from, I want this fight to, it can happen. Now, him and Terrence Crawford, this fight took forever to finally come into fruition. And, it was to the point where people was making the comparison to Mayweather and Pacquiao in terms of it's taking 3 years, it's taking so long, what's the holdup? And that happens in boxing. And it's happening way too often. Like, to this very day, people are still saying Anthony Joshua versus Wilder, we should get that fight. Is that fight ever going to happen? Are we ever going to get AJ versus Tyson Fury? Always was just a big, huge delay. And, for whatever reasons, Deontay versus Dillian White, fights that should have happened that just didn't happen, Now, I'm looking at Errol Spence. I'm thinking about everything that he had going for him before he fought Terrence Crawford. When you look at Errol Spence, he hasn't been in the ring since that fight. Now, he's made a lot of money. And when you think about it, you think about, for him to come back, is it for the money? He's obviously not in need of the money. But what would be his driving force to come back? Is it, I could use another 10 million or however much he make per fight? Or is it, I want to be world champion again. I want to be back on top. I want to continue my story. I want to become, undisputed. Because he was unified, but not undisputed. What is his drive? What is his motivation? You see, he could be at a point where he's doubting himself as well. When a fighter loses for the first time, you see them a lot of times, they don't take it too well. But the way he lost was, he got destroyed. You didn't get to see any of this dominant Errol Spence. You saw the heart was still there, but you didn't see him. He wasn't able to do anything different. When you were once a dominant fighter that just went out and pretty much knocked everybody out, you were able to go out there and win fights, and you remember coming from the bottom of the rankings to get yourself up to where you were. Now you have the biggest fight of your career and you lose, badly. I'm sure he hears the tweets. He hears the comments. He reads the tweets. He's aware of what people are saying about him and things of that nature. And, you know, you get to a point where the hunger for the money isn't there. You still want the money. You want to be the top dog. But maybe that fire isn't the same anymore. And after losing to Terrence Crawford the way he did, think about it. You always saw videos of Erol Spence in the gym, along with the Charlos, Tank Davis, all these different fighters. You always saw them in the gym. You notice when these guys start to make big money, they get to the point where the money gets up, you start to see less and less training videos of these guys. And once you get to the point where I'm doing the same thing over and over for years out of my life, sometimes, even when you're undefeated, that hunger might just go away. Which is, again, when you go back to Floyd Mayweather, you heard so many people say the one thing with Floyd is that motherfucker trains like he's broke every single time. He trains like he's broke, like I gotta get that money. Like that's the way he trains. Okay, well, you take a guy like Ryan Garcia stepping on stage, drinking beers, you take a guy like Jared Anderson getting arrested, telling the police, well, see, I smoke, man, I forget to eat, like I ain't got no food in my system, and they're explaining to him how the food will, the alcohol consumption will, the food, more you have food in your body or whatever, the more aware you are and things of that nature, and whatever. But bottom line, these are professional athletes, right? And you're going through all of this. I want to smoke and get high. Floyd, no. Floyd, that wasn't his thing. Clean living, clean eating. Bernard Hopkins was another dude that was with clean living, clean eating. And that's probably one of the reasons as well, along with the way he trained, is why he was able to go so far, and had the success that he had. But this is the type of thing where right now, I look at Erol Spence and I think, okay, when he had the accident and he went through that windshield, okay, he came back and his first fight back was against Danny Garcia. And he won the fight unanimously. So it's obvious it didn't take enough out of him at that time where it affected him to where he couldn't beat Danny Garcia. As time goes on, sometimes old injuries catch up. Vinny Pazienza had a broken neck. He came back and he was told he'd never fight again. He came back and we got different fighters that had different stories where some guys was told they'd never walk again. Definitely whatever career choice that they chose, you think would be behind a desk or something somewhere, not as an athlete. So looking at Erol Spence, you feel like through time, like I said, things happen. It's just like people go out into the cold all the time, no shirt on. You see people coming out the gym 10 below with a backpack and no shirt, trying to impress people with their physique and trying to show I'm tough. The cold don't mean nothing to me. And then by the time you motherfuckers in their late 30s, early 40s, arthritis then start whooping on the ass. And it's like, yeah, the shit that you don't do when you're younger to take care of yourself will catch up to you later at some point. Now, Erol Spence is not an old man in life, but you got to figure with boxing and the training, the wear and tear, and being thrown through that windshield and whatever surgeries he had, then he's had multiple eye surgeries, right? So you figure the man can't be the same. So when you start to slow down in certain ways, the old injuries will start to take place, will start to take a toll on you. They'll play a role. If you notice, you don't see Erol Spence do interviews. You don't see him even just do a live chat for his fans. You don't see him, he's not even showing his face on the camera. I mean, if you catch him somewhere at an event or something, and the camera come up to him and person come up to him with a camera and start, talking to him, you've seen little short interviews that he'll do. But I mean, even for him to just talk about boxing and where he's at right now, and where he stands with boxing, you don't even see that. And when you see a person who's trying to get their name out there, Errol Spence was doing video after video after video, and he might not be the biggest talker, but definitely you saw him in front of the cameras. And it could be, a strong possibility that he's, starting to doubt himself. Even in the sense of just like, do I need this? Do I have that same drive to just get up and, keep going through this? Like, do I need it? When you call a fighter's name out and you say, I want next with this fighter, we've been getting a lot of that past couple of years. Call someone's name and then don't fight them. Now, I don't know where he stands right now, how he feels inside, but let's be real. He and Derek James split up. We haven't heard anything about who Errol Spence's new trainer is. And when you get things rolling, once you get the ball rolling again, you want people to know, okay, I'm back. We're ready. Like, who's his new trainer? We don't know anything. So, as far as him even saying he wants to fight the winner of Fondora and Tim Tszyu, people talked about it, and now you got the people saying, well, between him and Crawford, or he ducked Crawford, and why is he going to 154? Well, he always wanted to go to 154. At a long time he was saying he was leaving to 147. Even before the Crawford fight, we heard him saying that he wasn't going to stay at 147 too much longer because it was harder for him to make the weight. But the bottom line is, when you look at the rankings, do you see his name? No, he's done nothing. Last fight he had was with Crawford, which was at 147. So even for him to say, okay, I'm still fighting, but it's going to be at 154, look at how long he's been out the ring. And I can tell you, when you stay away from the ring that long, it's not going to help you. Now, in terms of his body healing, that type of thing, okay. But in terms of him being sharp and becoming a better fighter, doing things differently, and listen, the way he looked that night against Crawford, there's several fighters who would have beat Errol Spence that night. That night, it wasn't, and you watch it, take nothing away from Crawford, but Spence made it so easy. All he did was wing shots. You could telegraph everything. He didn't even like the typical Spence that you normally see. This was like a desperate, I'm just trying to knock you out with every punch. And it was like Spence did what he did. The professional in him, he was able to capitalize on those bad decisions that he was making in the ring. His punch selection, he was able to do that. The other part of it was bad Errol Spence. His game plan was shit. Like, everything. You watch the fight again and it's like, damn, this is not the same Errol Spence. Yeah, Crawford did what he was supposed to do. But Spence looked like trash. And it wasn't Crawford is just so great that he made him look like, no, he was able, look at what he was hitting him with. Some of them shots didn't even look hard. Next thing you know, Spencer's wobbling, he's down. He was just coming over the top of his jab. It was like, it was one of those performances where, like I said before, if you saw Spence fight for the first time that night, you'd have been like, man, this dude is completely overrated. Bottom line, the type of ass whooping that Crawford put on him. Now, as a fighter, Spence probably wouldn't want to admit it, but that might have made him make his decision to fight with himself inside. Like, should I do it? Do I need to keep doing it? I got plenty of money. I can always go into promoting fighters. I can, and I say this because his silence is different now than before. And the simple fact of the matter is, you can see he doesn't have the same hunger that he always had. Now, if you was to ask Errol Spence, have you lost any of your hunger? Well, not at all. I'm, just waiting things out to see how things go. At this level of boxing, it got to make sense. And that's he say something like that. But the hunger's not the same. It's definitely not the same. So even if it's a situation of him healing. We all know about the detached retina surgery, the second one he had, the third or whichever one it was. But we know that, so it's no secret. And a lot of times a fighter just find out. They wake up and they like, damn, why do I feel like this? You know, my body feels weird. Then it's the next day. And it's like, damn, what's going on with me? Things start to change. And the wear and tear starts to kick in. So he could very well be at a point where he's doubting himself, where he's not sure if he needs to keep boxing. And when that starts to happen, like I said, it doesn't. You don't have to be Terrence Crawford. It could be somebody else that he's expected to go in there and win against. Might go in there and wipe the floor with him. So we don't even know where Errol Spence stand right now, skill-wise, what he's going to look like in his next fight. We don't even know what he looks like. And the fact that he hasn't announced a new trainer right now, well, what type of techniques is he working on? What type of, what is he doing to add to his game to improve himself as a fighter? And with who? So before people get all super excited about his return as if it's official, those are the type of questions that just things that I've had for myself to think, like, yeah, where does Errol Spence stand right now? Because that was an ass whooping. That was, how they talk about career defining moments? Well, that could have been like a career change. And obviously it was. I don't care how tough a fighter try to pretend to be or how fearless they try to pretend to be. When you see a guy disappear like that, and it took an ass whooping, ask yourself this question. If he would have won that fight, do you think he would have still been out of boxing this long? The only thing that would make sense for him to be out of boxing this long is if he had an injury that led to a surgery or something, or an injury that he needed to just let heal completely, or as much as he possibly can, something he was getting some type of treatment on, some type of physical therapy on before his return. But outside of an injury, do you think he would have been out, not fighting this long? No. Basically, by now, he would have probably vacated the titles and already had one, maybe two fights at 154 by now. Okay? They fight less, yes. They try to, get the bigger fights. And, the thing is, like with Canelo, now Canelo made a comment that he would be open to fighting Errol Spence. That's a fight that they could make happen. But there's more value in fighting Spence than Crawford, which when he said he showed no interest in fighting Crawford, right? Now, it's not that he doesn't see the skills in Crawford, but once again, they want to fight where they're going to make the most money. And between the two, yeah, Crawford is a good boxer, but Spence is more known for getting the knockouts, breaking the guy down and getting him out of there. So there's more of a excitement of let's see what's going to happen when it comes to a guy that, is known to be a big puncher that's possibly going to get the knockout versus a guy that can box, that can get the knockout, but more than likely he's looking to box first. And pretty much when he says he'd be open to fighting Errol Spence, now my opinion is that Canelo would have fucked Spence up. To be honest with you, I don't think Errol Spence's power is enough for Canelo. And I believe that against Canelo, Errol Spence showed, just like against Crawford, he goes into this whole, I need to knock you out to feel satisfied. Let's not forget, Spence is the same guy that said that he can box and jab and move and do all that stuff, but that's boring to him. Well, now you're in there with a guy like Canelo, and y'all got to always understand something. If a fighter has a chance to fight anybody that Floyd's fought, they know that their comparison is going to be to Floyd when they are like at the top of their division in their era of time. So you think he would go in there and be smart and box and move and do the things he said that's boring to him? No, he's going to go in there and do exactly what his instincts tell him to do. If Canelo doesn't back up, I'm not backing up. He's going for the knockout, I'm going for the knockout. And that's basically what I feel would have happened is he would have went in there and tried to fight toe-to-toe with Canelo and wind up getting knocked the fuck out. But that, being the least of his worries right now. I really don't know what the future holds for Spence. None of us do. But I do know, even like little shots that I've seen of him in little clips of him behind the scenes at people fights or whatever, he doesn't look like he's in any type of real shape. So sometimes you got those guys that they'll work out here and there to try to stay in some type of shape, but they're not really doing anything hardcore in training to really let me keep my weight as close as possible to the weight class I'm fighting in. They don't, and they start to wait, and that's one of the things that Errol Spence has always done. And I said that's something that can come back to haunt him, where Spence waits around and then starts trying to cut weight the hard way instead of just keeping himself in shape. I'm telling you, these guys are lazy. I don't know if Errol Spence smoked weed or whatever. I don't know if he's a clean living guy, but a whole lot of these so-called athletes, they smoke, they drink, they do all types of shit. And then, like I said, when it comes time to cut weight, then they kill themselves to cut the damn weight instead of just being active and, staying on top of these things throughout. And for Errol Spence, to be honest with you, man, I don't, he's like, what, 34 now? 34, 35? I really don't see Errol Spence sticking around this sport for a long time. I think Errol Spence might be one of those guys, honestly, that he comes back. Let's say even if he wins his next fight, if he fights again, I think Errol Spence might be one of those guys that come in there and he fights someone that really put it on him bad. And the fact of the matter is, he does have heart. He'll keep trying to fight, and when you can take punishment, that will lead to you getting bruised up, swollen up, beat really badly to the point where you're not the same guy. It's no different when people look at, Deontay Wilder and say, look at the beating he took from Tyson Fury. You understand what I mean? That ass whooping that Crawford gave him may very well be that same type of situation where Errol Spence is just like, that might be, and I believe that that's the reason. I do not believe Errol Spence had the same hunger that he always had. No. Even when people was talking about, oh, he got the suspension, and the suspension is basically for the fighters' safety so they don't go in there too soon. Okay, that time is come and gone, and he still hasn't said anything. Like, he's not even talking to his fans. You understand what I'm saying? Forget the haters. He's not talking to his fans to say anything. So, for that matter, I believe that ass whooping had everything to do with why he's in this situation, like the state of mind he's in terms of his enthusiasm and coming back into boxing. And to be honest with you, if you don't have that same fire, if you have to force yourself and you find yourself in a position where it's just not there and you're telling yourself that it's still there, you're pushing and having to force yourself to come back, that can be very deadly. And to be honest with you, for the majority of people, like I said before, you guys said you don't believe Errol Spence will beat Terrence Crawford in the rematch at 147 or 154. Just like I said, you had a lot of people saying they think he'll do better at 154, but they think Crawford still wins. So the point is, if he's not a better fighter, if he cannot add things to his game that will, help him to actually win, not just do better, okay? Shane Mosley went right back into his rematch with Vernon Forrest. He didn't take another fight, didn't take a super long time off, no. He went right back in there. He did better in the rematch, but he still lost, okay? Anthony Joshua went right back in there against Alexander Usyk. He did better in the rematch, but he still lost. Shane Mosley, he went right back in there against Winky Wright after losing the first fight, and he still lost. Sugar Ray Leonard went right back in there with Duran in a rematch, and he won, and he fought his fight. He did what he was supposed to. Difference is, Ray Leonard was always a better fighter than Duran, but he went in there off emotion, ego. I want to beat him at his own game. I'm going to stand right there and bang with him, and that didn't work in his favor. So in the fight, Sugar Ray didn't pull a Floyd Mayweather and I'm going to figure you out. Okay, I got you. Now I'm going to shut you down for the rest of the fight. No, it took him to lose first. And he went in a rematch and said, hey, no, let me do what I'm supposed to. You understand what I'm saying? Shane fell short because Shane wasn't able to really add anything to his game. And his original style just wasn't going to beat Vernon Forrest. You see what I'm saying? There was nothing that he brought different to the table. He made a few adjustments. He fought harder. That's about it. But he didn't do enough. And the same thing with the Rinky Wright fight. Anthony Joshua. He did the same thing. He did better against Usyk in the rematch, but it wasn't what he's doing right now, which is what he should have been doing. What he's doing right now, how he fought Ngannou, how he fought Wallin. And I don't want to hear no garbage about, yeah, but Usyk is different. So what? He's still a man. He's human. You have to try. You have to make the effort. AJ wasn't sure of himself. AJ right now, this is the AJ that we need to see fight Usyk. That's not the AJ that showed up. So I don't care if you think AJ would win or if you think he'd still lose. The point is, I say this AJ beats Usyk. Plain and simple. Like, confidently, this AJ beats Usyk. But he couldn't get it together in the first two fights. But he's back now. If he gets that chance, I don't know. If it comes back to them again, I don't know. Only time will tell how things shape out. But the bottom line is, you can look now and say, yeah, the old AJ is back, or this is basically a better version of AJ. Like, he's back. Bottom line, AJ's back. We can't say that about Errol Spence. And I think if Errol Spence goes back in there against Terence Crawford, how he absorbs the information, the type of trainer he has that can tap into him mentally, the same way how Ben Davison was able to get into Anthony Joshua's head and open him up. And once I said, even with Robert Garcia and the ups and downs and everything that went on with Anthony Joshua, it was all a learning experience. And the thing about it was he was able to learn and understand what he's supposed to be doing. But AJ has always been a boxer puncher, but he always depended on his well-rounded skills to win. Whereas Errol Spence, his thing is he can't avoid a shootout. That's all he wants to do. So the discipline that he would need, the discipline, this is something that he's never really shown. Like I said, the one fight with Mikey Garcia where he went into boxing mode, and it just wasn't the same because he won the fight, no doubt. He definitely shut Mikey Garcia down and won. But his power didn't seem the same in that fight. The dominance wasn't the same. And he didn't look like the same fighter when he goes in boxing mode. You see, now, it's not about trying to change him to be a different fighter. It's adding to what you already know that you can pretty much put your game plan together where it's going to work for you. Because he's not a better boxer than Terence Crawford. And he's a boxer puncher and he needs to stick to that. But he has to be smart. I don't think Errol Spence has the speed that he needs to beat Crawford either, because if he understood to snap his shots and throw his shots quick, don't be there on that center line. But that's the thing. It's easy to say that. Like, we can see it. His trainer can tell him that, but he has to actually do it. And I just think that Spence just has it locked in his head that I'm here to just bang with guys and get them out of here. Now, let's say he did rematch him at some point and say he won. Then so be it. And Spence, I always say, whoever Spence fight, I want to see Spence win. But once again, I don't dumb my shit down to try to, play neutral or take sides. I'm just being honest. I don't think Spence is the same fighter. I think that ass whooping has changed him completely. And I don't care. Let's say deep down inside, he's not scared. I'm not saying he's scared. I'm not saying he's like, oh, I'm scared of Terence Crawford or I'm scared of whoever. No, I'm saying the desire. I don't think it's there. When you love something, you really want something, don't you go after it? You understand what I'm saying? You don't just sit back and wait unless there's things going on with Spence that we don't know about. But even like what was going on with him and Derrick James, for example, that didn't just happen overnight. That's something that had been going on that they kept quiet, okay? And then finally got to the point where it all came out. So I don't know what's going on, but whatever it is, it's keeping him out of the ring and away from the sport that he says he loves or used to love. So sometimes you want to do something, but it's just not there. Things can happen in your life where your enthusiasm for things just change. But definitely for Errol Spence, he's not the same guy. He's not the same guy. And I don't think that for him to be out the ring this long, and you know his style is he doesn't come back and do tune-ups. He comes back against one of the top guys. We will see if he returns where he stands. But I don't think Spence is the same. And I just think that the style he hasn't shown me that he has the IQ to do anything different. You know, the necessary adjustments. I think as soon as Spence gets hit, he's going to go right back into just stand there and bang mode. And then, too, his punch resistance might not be the same either. Because the shots that Terrence Crawford was dropping him with, man, a lot of that shit didn't even look hard. And next thing you know, Spence is going down. You know, and also, even along with the situation he had with Derrick James, money, whatever, how do we know, too, that Derrick James didn't see something in Spence and feel like, man, this dude is finished? So not only does he owe me money, now this is just me saying this, but how do we know Derrick James doesn't see in him something in him that makes him feel like Spence is finished? Not only does he owe me money, but he's finished, you know? And he feels like I'm not losing anything by separating from him. He's finished. That could be a part of it. And I'm not telling you that's what it is, but I'm saying it's a strong possibility that could be a part of it. You know, and I mean, how often do you see people leave, you know, a unified champion? Guy only got one loss, and there was a point after the fight was, you know, Derrick James was talking on Spence's behalf and was speaking up for him. Then out of nowhere, we're hearing about he never paid him what he was supposed to pay him, you know, from the Terrence Crawford fight. So just like that, all of a sudden now, bam, gone. I don't care to know the details. Like I said, I'm not into the drama and all that. I don't care about all that. You know, what happened, who said what, or whatever. It's just, it's you know, that's something that is personal that, you know, they obviously didn't work it out. So, but looking at Errol Spence, you know, where he was and where he is now, it's different. And at this stage in his career, you know, it's only natural. Like, dude, look, this is what I'm saying. When people they bash certain guys because they constantly win and they do things and they understand this monopoly of boxing and they learn how to play the game, and people hate them for that and they envy them for that. But it's like, just like in life, okay? Let's exclude the immature people, because immaturity is something that, you know, you see 50-something, 60-year-old guys right now doing the same things that they were doing when they was 15 and 16. Okay? Still trying to be a teenager. Still trying to be the cool guy. There's a time you see a group of guys standing in the corner. Right? And there's so many people you might not pay attention to who's no longer there in that corner, right? But you got some of those guys that realize, man, they're wasting their time, wasting their life, standing out here in the corner with these guys doing nothing, right? Okay. Now we're starting to get older. Still a teenager, but I'm not 15 anymore. I'm 18. I need to be working. I need to be out here doing something for myself, right? And all of a sudden, now whether they go to school, you know, go to college or something, a business school, take a trade or something, or they start working, bottom line, they're no longer on this corner. They start working. So now you just went from standing on the corner, talking trash, wasting time, doing nothing, to now I'm doing something constructive for my time. Okay. And you learn from it. You learn from it. Now you got a car, you're working. Now you and the fellas are hitting the strip clubs, y'all hitting the bars and all of that. Y'all clubbing every weekend. You go through that phase. Then all of a sudden, you meet a woman that you want to settle down with. Strip clubs, bars, and clubs ain't for me no more. Now you move on. Now, those same grown adults that you would, you know, going to these places with are still going, but you're not. You see things different. You understand what I mean? Now it's about you and your wife. Now you and your wife have kids, right? Now it's no longer about just you because you met this woman. It's no longer about just the two of you. Now you have a kid to take care of. So now everything is changing. So now you're taking your kid to the daycare and stuff. You're doing all this thing. You got a babysitter coming over, whatever it may be. But bottom line is your life has changed. Now your life is full of responsibilities. So even if you wanted to go back to doing those things, you can't. Even though some fools do and then destroy their homes and they separate and you got baby mama, baby daddy, which is what is going on in this world. But bottom line is you change, you go through stages. Your enthusiasm to hang on the corners died a long time ago. Your enthusiasm to go to clubs and strip clubs died a long time ago. Now you become family oriented. And now when you go out, you only want to go to places that's family oriented. You feel safer, you feel like your family's safer, and you don't want to have to get to a point where you got to roll your sleeves up and, you understand what I mean? Now, those same guys that you used to hang with, if you run into them and they like, hey, yeah, man, let's get together, and you, hey, listen, we can go out, go bowling or something, we go to dinner, go out and cool out, something like that, but I'm not with no strip clubs and all that type of, right? And in fact, you don't even feel really comfortable bringing them to your home until you see what type of person they are. Because if they didn't change and they're still living that same lifestyle, you don't even want them coming around you. It's just like, we was cool at one point. There's never any beef, but their lifestyle and mine don't mix. And, I don't want to bring this dude to my house. Then all of a sudden my wife telling me, look, when you went upstairs, your friend was looking at me weird, or he made a pass at me, or, your daughter coming, hey, look, that your friend looked at me, or your friend was, whatever. You understand what I'm saying? And so you just, if I hang out with them, it's on my terms, not at my home. You understand what I'm saying to you? You grow. You no longer have an apartment. You're not paying rent. Now you're paying a mortgage. You're putting kids through college. You understand what I'm saying? Your life changes. You mature. You grow. Those desires leave you. Those things you used to have interest in leave you. But you see all these people the same age as you still doing the same things. They never grow and evolve in life. You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of times, like for example, if Spence feels like he doesn't, now this is just me saying this, y'all. I don't know. But what I'm saying, I'm just looking at things from a standpoint of he's been very quiet. I'm looking at the ass whooping he took, the fire he used to have, the hunger he used to have to like right now. It might just be a wake-up call in life to him, like, you know what? You don't need this anymore. Second round of that fight with Spence, with Crawford. His face was already starting to swell and turn colors. That's from all the plastic surgery. How many more times do you think that can happen to his face before he has like a permanent damage where his face starts to look weird and he can't fix it? You understand? Like they got the plastic surgery again type of thing, right? So sometimes that's what happens in life. It's like, man, listen, my plan was to do such and such a thing. I wanted to become undisputed. I wanted to go and he already said once he become undisputed, to go to 154 is not even about titles anymore. Remember he said that. He said it's not even about, because they was asking him about, would he ever fight Jermell Charlo? But look at how the tables turn. Things change in life. So your plans might be one thing, but the rest of the world doesn't wait for you. You have to adjust to situations. So when I'm listening to him say things like, once he will come undisputed at 147, he don't really have no real desire to become undisputed at 154. It's just about trying to fight the best fighters and make the best possible, biggest fights he can possibly make. That's what Terrence Crawford is trying to do. You understand what I mean? And he did it in two different divisions, but that's what he's trying to do. He's at a point in his life now where he's trying to make the biggest fights. Man, you don't get older and work harder. You work smarter. That's just life. That's just life. And this is what I mean. He might be in a lot of times people might look at it like you're quitting or you're ducking, but this could be a situation where he's evolving to understand, you know what? I'm being real with myself. I don't need this shit anymore. The desire's not there anymore. A guy can come to the ring carved up, cut up, rock solid, and go in there and get his ass whooped because in here, in here, and in here. It wasn't there. And Terrence Crawford may be the reason that. And I listen. I'm saying it once again. I'm not saying he's scared of Terrence Crawford. I'm saying that ass whooping might be the reason that Errol Spence is mentally in the situation. The car accident, all of that shit. All of it. Point what I'm saying is, you go through all this and plastic surgeries and all that just to take an ass whooping like that. His confidence is obviously not the same either. Understand that. He wasn't able to do anything different in that Terrence Crawford fight. Nothing. Everything he was doing was the same shit over and over. Do you think Derrick James was in the corner telling him, just keep doing the same thing over? No. That's all he could come up with. So, we could very well have seen the last of Errol Spence in top form, is my point. So even if he comes back, now we won't know until we see it, but even when he comes back, we may very well see a washed up Errol Spence. So, that being said, let's say he does get the Fundora fight. Now, I don't consider Fundora a top level fighter. He's decent. He comes to fight, but I don't consider him a top level fighter. If Spence looks good against him, let's say he gets that fight, he looks good against him. That still doesn't. I feel like if Tim Tszyu didn't get cut, I mean, who knows what would have happened? But Tim Tszyu probably would have won. Who knows? But at the same time, you got to look at who's in your division, and you got to look at who the best in your division are. So that's how you're going to determine. As far as how far a person goes. And how good, how they can hold their own. If he hasn't lost anything, that would be one thing, but I don't think Spence is the same. Now, on the other hand, if he goes in there and he struggles with Fundora, now, when people see a good fight, they go, yo, that was a great fight though, yo, two warriors. But you got to look and think, certain fighters you shouldn't have a struggle with if you're on top of your game. And for Errol, for him to be out this long and be so secluded, I just get the feeling we've seen the last of the best of Errol Spence. And that, let's say he's still good enough to beat some of the top guys, I see a Spence that's probably going to be taking more damage than he usually would take. I don't think we're going to see a sharp Errol Spence. And as long as he gets a knockout, people won't care. They'll just go, oh, see, but he won. Right, he won. But once again, to come back as a better, improved fighter is the key. And guys like Errol Spence just don't have the IQ, the mindset. Those guys that just depend on knocking guys out, they just don't have that. They don't feel comfortable. It's just not in their nature. So, we'll see. But I just think we've seen, I don't think we're going to see a sharp Errol Spence. I think whatever version of Spence we get, if he comes back, is going to be noticeable that he's not the same guy. And unless people just want to see him get badly hurt, something like that, I don't think anybody would be sitting here saying they want to see the rematch between him and Crawford. If we didn't want to see an immediate rematch after the first ass whooping, that's because of how bad he got beat. It's like, what's the rematch going to do? There's two different levels here. This dude is just not, he wasn't there. Now, bottom line is, when you take a beating that affects you mentally, that becomes your biggest fight. Is building that desire, that fire to get back in there. What have we been talking about with Deontay Wilder? The only difference is Deontay Wilder admitted that he's lost his hunger and his desire for the sport, his love, his passion. So why are you doing it then? Isn't that a logical question? Why are you doing it then if you lost all of those things? We know why he's doing it. He's looking to cash out. How the hell do you expect to go in there and beat a top level guy? You lost your desire, your hunger, your passion, and love for the sport. Four qualities that you definitely need to be on top in this fucking sport. How are you going to go in there and win against a guy that is determined, that hasn't lost his hunger, passion, his desire, okay, and his love, and he's a better fighter than you? How? So yeah, we already know what it is. He missed out on that 120 million. He missed out on that 50 million, and he want to be able to leave with that type of look, with the money he already made. 50 million is life-changing money. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, he wants that. So to get to that, whatever millions he would make in this upcoming fight with Zhang. Now you add that to, whatever he would make if he gets the AJ fight. So this is what I'm saying. And you got to also understand, if just for the sake of making him happy, they say 50-50, well, that's giving this man a second chance. Like I said, anyway, just giving him the Zane fight. Why? Because this is the same people that said they didn't want Wilder back because of the way he looked against Parker. Like, they want him back, but they want an improved version. Like, we want him to be able to snap back into the old Wilder. Let's say it like that. We haven't seen anything, but he's back on the card against Zhang. Okay, both guys coming off of a loss. So, to be honest with you, AJ, he won his fight, and he won again. So do you really think it's fair for Wilder to get 50-50 with the loss versus a guy that won, and the deal was they both had to win for the fight to happen? And what was the purse? 50-50. So how does Wilder still deserve 50 million? Now, what if they said, well, Wilder, listen, we threw you a bone, brother. So AJ's going to get 50 million. You're getting 20. If Wilder was just like, well, no, I'm not fighting, it's his loss. AJ doesn't lose anything. Now, it's another 50 million, but the point is, AJ can make that against Fury or more. He can get that against Usyk. You understand what I'm saying? So this is what I'm saying. He's in a way better position than Wilder is. But bottom line is, if it's just for the sake of making a fight, because they don't want a guy to say, no, I'm not doing it, just saying, why would you, 20 million. That's what Crawford is running around here asking for 25. He's a fucking welterweight, right? So just saying, when you are in a position where the money doesn't bother you, like we heard Ryan Garcia at 1.5 don't bother me. Come on, man, ain't nothing, right? Right. We know what Ryan was doing. Ryan purposely missed weight. Why? He want to be as heavy as he possibly can. I'll pay the fine. Ryan's probably going to come in that motherfucker about, they said he was 143 last night. Ryan's probably going to come in there about 160. He's probably going to rehydrate to about 160. All right? He wants to be as big as he possibly can to have whatever advantage he may need over Devin Haney. That's what his plan was. And then he goes on there and drink the beer. Yeah, that was on purpose, yo. Unprofessional. Joke of a fighter. But, yeah. So, just saying, this is the type of stuff that you pay attention to what people say and do. It's not hard to see what the truth is in these situations. But you got to also look at, have to look at, the longevity, how long a person has already been doing something. And a lot of times that plays on their mind as well. Look at Jared Anderson. He has accomplished nothing as a fighter in terms of high value, anything to really marvel at. And he's already talking about, I've been boxing since I was a kid, and he don't love the sport. It's just not in him to really, want to fight for a long time like everybody else, want to fight to their 30s and all that. He can't see himself doing that. So he already has that mindset, and this guy is, what is Jared Anderson? 23, 24, something like that. So for him to have that mindset right now, would you be shocked if he went in there and then lost the fight? Let's say if he wins this fight, he becomes a mandatory, right? Or a number one contender, and he lose, would you be shocked? No. When your heart is not into something, it's different. And look at his opponents, his choice of opponents. And then he'll try to make it sound like they're making offers and guys are dodging them. Who? You know damn well they would have already said who they made offers to, and that person turned them down. They're choosing to fight these weak opponents. You know, when you're the money man, people don't want to avoid you because they know that fighting you, win, lose, or draw, okay, or annihilation, they're going to make the biggest paycheck of their life. When you're high risk and low reward, that's when they dodge you, okay? When you're high risk and high reward, they want to go in there and fight you because they want that paycheck. So even if you're an accomplished fighter, but it's still low reward against you, yeah, they'll say it's not worth it just to say I fought this guy. But I can make around the same money fighting guys that's that's you know, not as accomplished. You know, and another thing is when fighters are really chicken shit. And because they get in the ring, you give them credit for doing that, but they're really chicken shit, which is why they're so choosy about who they fight. To get to the top, you got to go through the top. But if you can talk your way to the top, if you know your social media popularity can get you to the top, they don't care by any means necessary. They just want to get there. They don't respect the sport. They don't care about it. They don't give a shit about how you're spending your money and the fact that you see. This is why I you know, y'all know I'm not a fan. I'm not that guy sitting here with the popcorn. Yeah. Nope. If I'm eating, I'm sitting here chilling. That's a good one. Good shot. Okay. Yeah. He's figured him out now. All right, see how he's going to the body, doubling up to the body, he's faking up top, he's fainting, and okay. Yeah, it's a good fight. Good fight. Yeah, it's a good. That's me. I'm not in here jumping around and losing my shit and running around the apartment. No, it's not me. But for you that do that, these fighters don't care that you're doing that. These fighters don't care that you emotionally invest into them. They don't care. All they care about is their money. Jared Anderson said, you know, in that last interview I saw him have, when he said, you know, you guys that, like, you know, like saying, people saying that they want to see me fight and get a belt and all that and stick around, but like something happened. I got a daughter, you know what I'm saying? Well, what happened is something happened to me. Well, when you out there driving around with weed in your system or alcohol in your system, you still have a daughter, right? And when you high, you think you can do anything. Well, all it takes is for one miscalculation. The next thing you know, your car's upside down. You're dead. You killed somebody else. Your daughter is going without you now, isn't she? Right? She's going on in life without you. Just saying. But these are things that, you know, you got to look at people and look at their behaviors and understand, like, a guy like Erol Spence, we've seen in the ring, and we know Erol Spence loved to drink. Don't know if he's still drinking, but think about this. For him to be a drinker, we've seen him on many interviews where he looked like he was drunk as hell. Okay? Who's to say he hasn't been drinking like crazy since the fight with Crawford? Even more so than usual. Who knows? Right? We don't know. But to me, it's only common sense. He's not the same, not just physically, but inside. Because there's no way he'd stay away from boxing this long. Not even check in to say, hey man, look, you know, I got fans out there that support me. You know, even through this loss or whatever, they there. You know, hey man, prayers up and all that. Hey man, hey, you in there and tried your best. Keep your head up, whatever. He's not even like speaking to these people. This won't be a situation of just let people stop talking about it. They'll forget about the ass whooping. No, people are going to remember that ass whooping. They're still waiting to see, you know, what move you make. You played chess already with Terrence Crawford. He checkmated you. So now this is a start over. This is a do-over. This is a new game of chess. And they're looking to see what your move is going to be. Now, whether it's going to be with Crawford, doubt it. Well, actually, Crawford, I saw where they're supposed to have the press conference for his fight this Wednesday. And I told you, people making all these stupid videos talking about how Floyd Mayweather and Al Heyman is blocking. They're trying to block Terrence Crawford and all that. Like, so what? Even if that was the case, so what? Everybody's trying. Whatever happened to, hey, when you want to fight, when you want to be the best, you want to fight the best, right? So whatever happened to that? Now I saw a video. I didn't even watch the video. I saw a thumbnail that says Jermell Charlo is stepping aside so Crawford could fight. I forget the guy's name that he's fighting. But bottom line is, where's all of this coming from? Right? People just say things. They don't look at the reality. They just say things. So me telling you what I'm saying about Spence, like I'm saying, I'm just saying this, but I'm not telling you for sure. I don't know all the details, but I strongly do believe that it's only common sense. Something's not right with Spence. Whether and bottom line is there's something that's keeping him out of the ring where I don't really think his hunger is the same. Like I said, you'd at least address your fans so they know where you stand. When you plan on coming back, who do you want to fight next? Do you have anything in the works that's like pretty much a done deal? Nothing. You don't hear anything. So, that all being said, and listen, it happens to so many people. This is why, too, when we compare fighters, I always tell people, man, it's easy to say things, but like, one of the things that will always stand out to me as a fighter is when Muhammad Ali was being interviewed after the Joe Frazier fight 3, the Thriller in Manila, and he said, "This is the closest I ever came to dying." All right, and he said that it's probably best to retire, have a heart attack or something, right? If you've done anything in your life, whether it's boxing, you played ball, whatever, and you get to the point when you get that burn in your throat and you really just feel like you got nothing left, but you just won't quit. See, if you've been there, you can relate to that shit. This is what I'm saying. You know how easy it is to say this guy will beat this guy because you want that guy to be, want to see him as better. You want to think that guy would beat that guy, and you don't realize the inner workings a lot of times is what's different. It's like I told you, man, Evander Holyfield was a small heavyweight in the era that he came in. And Evander Holyfield, not only was he skillful, but he fought guys where his toughness was the difference maker. He was tougher than them. He could take more punishment than them. You understand what I mean? So even though he was more skilled, even if they hit harder than Holyfield, he could take theirs, but they couldn't take his. You understand what I mean? And then that pace, like it was different. That was the deciding factor in several Holyfield fights. And when you in there fighting a guy like Ali, who's telling you he feels like this is the close he came to dying, but this motherfucker won't stop punching. You heard Mike Tyson talking about it. And that's one thing I remember one time I was in the gym. Yeah, we were running drills. And I sparred 4 guys. And the 4 guys I sparred, man, we were going hard. And I remember people were like in awe. Like, yo, your stamina, bro. And that's one of the reasons why I told you guys, when people talk about muscles and, the body, the muscles take more oxygen. And I told you guys, it's not just because a guy's muscular. The problem with muscular fighters is they focus less on cardio. They don't know how to combine their cardio with their daily routine and training where they can stay muscular. Ken Norton was muscular. Did you ever see him have that problem? Holyfield stamina issues was corrected because Holyfield, certain fights, it depends on how you train. And I never had issues. I never had no stamina issues. And it was like, damn, the crazy thing is you sparred 4 different people, but no matter how many rounds, all around, you look just as fresh as the next guy for every, stage of you, sparring these 4 guys. And I remember Coach Jamal said to me, he said, "Hey man, I can't tell you how proud I am of you, man." He said, I mean, he said watching you spar is like you a gem. That's what he said to me. GEM, you're a gem. He said you are a jewel, man. He said, bro, I'm gonna give you one thing that I know that you already know, but I want you to always remember this. If you get tired, okay, and you're throwing punches and you're moving and you're fighting, do you know what the cure is for that? Keep throwing punches. And that's all he said. And I just looked at him like, because I wasn't tired, but I've been in that position where you are tired, but you won't let yourself believe that. And once you know, okay, I can keep going, I can keep throwing, but my opponent can't. Eventually, I'm gonna knock this guy out, right? Or stop him, or whatever, win the decision, or whatever. Bottom line is, you have it, so your confidence is there, your training is there, you know what you're supposed to do. So what I'm saying, every training camp, you want to get the best training as possible. You might have seen at certain training camps where a fighter, they really didn't go as hard as they should have, right? So now you're in there and it's like, damn, I'm pushing, but the reality is you always know that it's there. It's all a matter of you refusing to say, I quit. Simple. Simple. Some fighters just don't have it. Remember when Chad Dawson quit against Andre Ward? Took a knee, went down, and the ref was talking to him. He's like, I'm done. I'm done. And the ref waved it off. Shannon didn't do no, oh, I can't go to, no, he just quit. He gave up, he quit. Okay? So that means you'll quit again. Certain fighters just have that difference in them, but when you see it in the fights, a lot of times people are not paying attention. You don't know. A lot of fighters like to hide things. But, for somebody to get to that point where you feel like, I can't throw another punch, and all of a sudden, you throw another punch, another punch, another punch, a combination. The crowd is going crazy. But it's like, almost like magic. You just keep going. Your heart might feel like it's about to explode, but you just keep going. You see? Well, think about this. How many dog fights have you seen Erol Spence have? Right? Other than the one he had with Crawford. So the point is, not that he hasn't had good fights. Take nothing from Erol Spence. He's a solid fighter. Crawford's a solid fighter. Crawford never had to get to the point in that fight. It was an easy night for him. But my point, what I'm saying is, this was a dog fight that didn't go to defend. Look, you got to remember, Ali and him was going 15 rounds. This was a fight that basically just got to the point where Spence was just getting the shit beat out of him. He was getting hurt by like damn near any shot Crawford hit him with. What I'm saying is, he was fighting for his life because tactically he just wasn't able to match on Crawford. But I'm saying, imagine him being in a fight where, and he didn't quit or give up. But imagine him being in it. Imagine if that fight would have went the full distance and he was just getting rocked like that. Imagine what his face. Look at what he looked like after the fight. Imagine how he would have looked if it would have went the full distance. And imagine, Crawford was hurting him to the body. He hurt him upstairs. You understand what I'm saying? So you see the point. What I'm saying is, if it didn't go, if bottom line is, at some point you expect the ref to stop the fight or the child to throw the corner, when your guy's just getting pummeled and can't come up with anything else. Okay? Even for Errol Spence to say he wants to fight the rematch for that 154. My point is, even through all that time where he's been quiet, and then he made the tweet that he want the winner of Fundora and Zoo. It was just a tweet. You don't hear anything else. I saw one video where somebody made a comment to him about something about a fight. Something about him fighting somebody, and he just laughed and walked away. And I'm talking about sit down to do an interview. I ain't talking about somebody catch you walking somewhere and run up on you. I'm talking you saying, okay, let me talk to like me doing this video. Okay, sometimes I lose my interest in making videos because of the state of boxing. But it's some of you guys that I just, you know what, I do it for y'all. You understand what I mean? So let me do this video and get this done. And I put these videos out here. You understand what I'm saying? This is me taking my time to do this. Not somebody just running up, asking me some questions and then just upload and call it an interview. No, this is what you don't see Spence doing. He's not showing any enthusiasm. So I just really honestly feel like a lot of that comes down to Spence has lost his hunger, his desire, his love, and his passion for this sport. And I believe that it's not I'm turned off by the sport type of thing like with Wilder's situation. Or it's more just, look, man, I've made money and I'm not in need for the money. I didn't think the fight with Crawford was going to go like that, but it did. I want my win back. I want to go out with the win. I don't want to retire a loser. Okay? But do I need this? Is it really necessary? Fighters die in the ring. I remember Spence was asking, would he die in the ring? And he said, nah, I ain't willing to die in the ring. He's like, I got kids. You know, I'm not knocking the man for that. But what about when you fight a guy that is willing to die in the ring? You understand what I'm saying? So my point is, everything other than I want that smoke. I still want to be the best fighter. I still want to be considered pound for pound. Right? Anything other than that are what we call intangibles. And meaning you'll find out the hard way in the ring that those things wasn't enough for you to win. Because you're training, you're not going to go the full mile like you should. You're not willing to go through that type of beating again. What happens, he starts fighting not just Crawford, but anybody. And let's say the same thing starts happening. Opponent starts tearing his ass up. He's going to get that Crawford flashback. Like, here we go again with this shit. And what did he do in that Crawford fight? The same repetitive things over and over. So, therefore, if Spence don't get with a trainer, unless he gets with a trainer that can tap into this, like I said, and get him to connect everything, and he's actually able to become a better, smarter fighter, more defensive. And that's one thing he always had, was he was very impatient defensively, and he gets hit with shots he shouldn't have to get hit with because he's so anxious to knock you out. But like I said, his punch resistance might not even be the same since that Crawford fight. So I mean, you gotta remember, man, this dude didn't have plastic surgery and all this shit, man, and you know, just saying, when it comes down to it, I don't think he wants to have to go through that again. So me saying, based on his actions, his words in the fight, and just looking at all the things combined, I'm saying to you, I didn't hear this from nobody, and I'm not trying to give you some, tell you, like, I'm there and they can't know what I think. Based on all the things that we have in front of us, Erol Spence is not the same inside. He's not the same outside. I don't think that what it takes for him to be on top of his game again, I don't think it's there. And the fact is, for him to want nothing but the top guys after losing to Terrence Crawford the way he did, well, bottom line is, even to fight other guys and going there and win the way you was, now you coming up in weight on top of that. It's very easy to go in there and fight a guy like Tim Tszyu, get rocked, get hurt, and the next thing you know, Tim Tszyu done knocked you out. You know, just saying, you have to consider these things, because when you go in there and lie to yourself, when people lie to you, you know, you heard Wilder say, I don't want to hear my team tell me how good I look and stuff and whatever, and I just want to focus. And even though he says one thing and then does something else, but bottom line, what I'm saying is, a lot of times the people around you can have you hyped up thinking you're better than what you are. The people around you can tell you things that you know differently inside. But once again, when you are forcing yourself to try to believe something that's not good, it's just like telling yourself somebody love you, but they show you that they don't. You know things are not right, things are not the same, something's not, it's just not, everything is different. But you telling yourself, I don't want to overreact. She loves me, she still loves me, or he still loves me, or whatever the fuck, and then, no, they really don't. Next thing you know, you done caught them somewhere cheating, or they come one day and tell you that things are not the same, they think you should just separate. Now, the whole time, you know what's the first thing gonna come out your mouth to somebody when you talk? I knew she didn't love me no more. I knew he, okay, but you stayed. You see what I'm saying? You stayed for every reason other than this is my wife or my husband. I'm in love with this person. This is who I want to spend the rest of my life with. So it's not enough to keep the relationship together. You understand what I'm saying? Same thing. And I just don't think Spence is there anymore. I don't think he's there anymore. No different from Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman got injured. Let's look at something. He got injured, right, in training, supposedly. You've heard nothing from him since that Tim Zeus situation. Nothing. Who wants to get in top shape, right? Who wants to get in top shape just to end up not fighting? Now, the injury happens. I don't know where he is as far as healing goes, but you've heard nothing from Keith Thurman. What's his plans? Who does he want to fight next? What's going on? Nothing. He's been silent. So my point is, you get to a certain point where you remember how Keith Thurman was chasing Zab Judah all over the place? He was walking around, yo, don't duck me, son. Don't duck me, son. Remember, constantly. Now, do you hear anything from Keith? No. It's what I'm telling you. A younger Keith Thurman would have been on a whole different vibe. The older Keith Thurman is more laid back. Nah, it's not that. You understand what I'm saying? He wants to cash out as well. These guys are not, look, this is not the same 27-year-old Erol Spence, all right? This is not the same 26-year-old Keith Thurman. You understand what I'm saying? This is not the same, 24-year-old Terrence Crawford. These guys are older now. The desires and the wants are different now, whether they admit it or not. Some guys want to keep fighting as long as they can, get the top dollar as long as they can. Some guys just looking for that one last payout and then they're gone. And remember, people start talking shit about Keith Thurman years ago. Ever since he got married, he ain't been the same. I think he's, got softened up. He's enjoying life. This is the shit that they were saying about him. So why the fuck did you want to fight Pacquiao if that was the case? Nobody was saying it before the Pacquiao fight. It was after the Pacquiao fight. But this is what I'm saying. You see things one way. We all see things. I don't look at things for what I want it to be. I just look at what I have in front of me and I go from that. So based on the information and the actions of the fighters, how do you think, people solve cases? They're not there to see what happened, right? But they go by what they're told. They go by all the information they gather. Okay? Sometimes they can be wrong. A lot of times they're right. A lot of times they're wrong. Now, it's a difference when you want someone to be guilty versus, you're really putting thought into everything before you make a decision because you don't want to send somebody innocent to prison, right? But at the same time, it's like these type of situations, it's a lot easier to really see through these things because they're fighters and you see the same patterns over and over in different fighters, but you see the same things happen. So it's not like it's new. But yeah. Like example, let me give y'all an example. For everybody that like an Eddie Murphy movie, feel like Eddie Murphy's funny and all that, and okay, cool. Remember when Eddie Murphy got caught that transsexual? It's funny, he had the black hoodie. You got red hoodie Spence, you got black hoodie Eddie Murphy. Remember Eddie Murphy was standing there? Remember when Eddie Murphy was standing there with that hoodie on? And he was like, and in one video, he had a red hoodie on too. But remember that video where he was talking about he went out, he was bored, his wife was out of town or something to that effect, and he wanted something to read. So he was driving, 4 o'clock in the morning, he's driving somewhere to go buy a book. And he just happened to see this lady, or what he thought was a lady, standing there crying. And he decided to be the good Samaritan, rolled down his window. Hey, what you out here by yourself for this time of night and this and this and this? And invites a complete stranger into his car. And it turns out that it was a transsexual, and then the police happened to pull him over. Now they said Eddie hadn't actually committed any crime. Maybe he didn't get a chance to yet. Well, whatever. The bottom line is, he said he was just trying to be a good Samaritan, and never again will I do that, because trying to be a good guy and you end up, getting arrested, and the crowd was laughing. Remember, it's like in some garage or somewhere they were. But bottom line is, did y'all believe Eddie's story? Now, let's just revisit this. Not only is it 4 o'clock in the morning, and I wait till this time to decide I'm bored and I want to read. I am rich and famous, and I'm going to pick up a complete stranger who can end up yelling rape. They realize who I am, sue me, start yelling rape, anything. You understand what I mean? But I'm going to be a good Samaritan and put a complete stranger in my car. These are the same people that try to avoid the cameras, right? These are the same people that don't want their personal life out there. But once again, I'm rich and famous. I'm going to pick up a complete stranger. What if this person can be crazy for all I know? And the fact that they're willing to get in your car and you're a complete stranger, right? Doesn't that alone make you think, well, damn, because I'm not rich and famous, and I know if I'm driving down the street and I see somebody crying 4 o'clock in the morning, that's just their tough luck. I'm going to drive past like, damn, that's fucked up right there. Hope she all right. And I'm going to put you in my car? It could be a setup for all I know. But bottom line, this is the same man that stood up and did the show Raw and talked about how women, it's not double standard with them, and how they want everything to be one way. They're very judgmental, and they want things a certain way. And women, like, he made a comparison about, remember the song, Ain't Nothing Going On With the Rent, and that's all. Women just care about what you can buy. They don't care about loving you and this and that. And you go and you pick up a complete stranger. Okay? So even if you didn't know it was a transsexual, what happened when you found out? Because you notice his details. There was no detail. And I noticed when he was talking, he wasn't even looking at the camera. He wasn't even looking at the person talking. He's looking up in the air. And I'm like, yeah, Eddie. Yeah, Eddie. You're the fuck you, man. I know you, Eddie. Remember? Yeah. Now, I'm just saying, did y'all believe that story? Or did y'all believe, nah, Eddie, your ass just got caught slipping, that's all. Stop the lying. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. You knew that them transsexuals be out there. You know what they be out there doing, and you figured, let me go out there and grab me something. My wife ain't home. She ain't going to be home for about a week. I got the house to myself. Cool, but you got caught. Now, it's not like I was there, but he got caught by the police, right? And the transgender was in his car. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Wait, remember the Mike Tyson situation with the girl Desiree Washington? So this was after all that. So you see my point. You don't learn from people, man. And wasn't Mike Tyson's situation 3, 4 o'clock in the morning? He called this girl down. She come down, and then all of a sudden she said she called because, it's just we can't. It's Mike Tyson. He calls you, you come, right? Okay. But then all of a sudden she screamed rape. You don't think Eddie Murphy should have the sense to think like, man, this same shit can happen to me. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I got a woman in my car. What the fuck? And okay, if I'm going to read a book, why'd I stop for her? What does that have to do with anything? I was just going to drop her to where she needed to go and going about my business. Famous Eddie Murphy, everybody knows my face. They see me, they're going to know who I am. Something happens, my wife is going to hear about this. You understand what I'm saying? You don't think that a grown-ass man would have better sense than that? Come on, y'all. That's what I'm saying. We're not talking about some 17, 18-year-old who just starting to get out on his own. And no, let's be real. So my point is, people can draw conclusions. Now, it has nothing to do with whether I like Eddie Murphy or not as an actor, comedian, or whatever. It's the point. Listen to the information that you have. Does that make sense to you? Is that something you do? Now, just because I would or wouldn't do something, don't mean everybody would or wouldn't. But there's always somebody that would and somebody that wouldn't. What category do you fall in? 4 o'clock in the goddamn morning. You're driving, 4:15 they said, and you're driving because I'm bored. You know what? Let me go buy a nice, interesting book to read. What was he going to buy? Oh, it's like a good one. All about being transgender. Now, just saying, seriously, how do you put yourself in that situation? So the story sound like bullshit to me. Okay? Bottom line. And I think Eddie Murphy the funniest motherfucker I ever listened to. Okay, he make me laugh more than anybody else does. But just being real, that story sounds like bullshit to me. Okay, so when I'm looking at Erol Spence situation, it's not anything that I heard from anybody. It's me just looking at his situation. And I just don't think that we're going to see the same Erol Spence that we used to see before the ass whooping. I think that that same Erol Spence that we saw is the Erol Spence we're going to see. The difference is going to be his opponents not being as good as Crawford, or maybe not being good enough to exploit the things that Crawford did to where Spence will look that bad. You know, and if it's a name opponent, people could say, yeah, but it's a good opponent. It's not he's some walk in the park. But at the same time, you got to look and think. Spence before the ass whooping, right, was a solid dude. Spence during the ass whooping with Crawford didn't look so good that night. Like I said, Crawford did his job and Spence just looked bad. But at the same time, he took an ass whooping. So I'm not expecting to see the same Errol Spence. I'm not putting it like this. I'm not looking to see a new and improved Errol Spence. That's not what I think we're going to see. I just don't think he has the mindset to do the necessary things to become a better fighter. I just don't. I just think Spence is going to be Spence. That's what I think. You know, and I remember even when they asked Derrick James, he said, Derrick James, Spence thinks that, it's like, you think he was weight drained? You think it was, because he's been at 147 for so long, and Spence has been saying for the longest he wants to go to 154. And I remember Derrick James like, no, it's not that. It's not that. It's other things. It's just not that. But he never said what those other things were. Right? Okay. So regardless, he took a pounding. And as much as I like Errol Spence as a fighter, I mean, I would love to be wrong. I would love the fact that he comes back and is like, okay, I'm not saying it's impossible for him to become better, but I just don't really think that he will. Because I truly don't believe he has the mindset. I just don't believe he has the mindset to really become a better fighter. I think that what he's been doing, like he said, his overall style, his overall skill, he said he think his overall skill set is just better than Crawford's and everything, right? What did you see from his skill set other than the same repetitive punches over and over that wasn't working? The same sloppy, lackadaisical defense over and over, right? So where was everything else? Just saying. What you think is going to be different in the rematch if he's the same fighter? Unless, you know, he's the same fighter and then Terrence Crawford shows up not as sharp as he usually is. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, what do you see being different? If Terrence Crawford is the same Terrence Crawford, it's the same ass whooping all over again, or maybe even worse this time. You know, maybe even worse this time. Who knows? Bottom line, that rematch probably never happens. It might not be necessary for it to happen. I mean, for the people that want to jump up and holler and scream, you know, because they want to see either Spence get killed or they want to be able to say Terrence Crawford beat him not once but twice. Terry Norris is one of the fighters I never want to see anybody beat Terry. Terry was that dude, man. You see how Terry Norris has been talking? And Terry Norris started developing brain damage at 28. Riddick Bowe started developing brain damage at 28 and retired at 28. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. So, and that's why I say, even look at a guy like Jared Anderson, look at where he's at. Look at what Riddick Bowe accomplished. And this dude not even talking about fighting until he's 28. So you understand what I'm saying? Sometimes it's just not in you. And then if you push something that you don't really want to do and you push it and force it, most of the time it works against you. And I just don't see Errol Spence being a guy that has that love, passion, desire, and all that, you know, enthusiasm for this sport anymore. He's been gone way too long. Look at the Charlos. Jamal Charlo came back and looked spectacular, but Charlo didn't get his ass whooped like that by nobody. You understand what I'm saying? He came back and looked great. Now he hasn't been in the ring for a long time since then. These long layoffs, it's different. These long layoffs. And notice my point with all of them. All of them are in the same age group. The younger versions of them, you always, I mean, all year long, you kept seeing videos of the Charlos talking shit into the camera, hitting the bag, telling you how much they dedicated to the sport. This is all we do. We fight, we box, right, and all that. As they get older, you start to see that change. And that's what I'm saying. Spence is no different. So for me, I'm not expecting this, a new improved Erol Spence. I'm expecting the same Erol Spence that fought Crawford that night. Now, if he was dehydrated at all, and that played a part, okay, still in all, skill-wise, I'm expecting the same Erol Spence. I'm not expecting anything different, and I feel confident in that, though. It's not that I want it to be that way. I just don't feel that he is one of those smart fighters that knows how to adjust and adapt and become that complete fighter. I see him as being, this is like trying to teach an old dog new tricks type of situation. You know what I'm saying? Bottom line, I just don't see him being that guy. I just don't. And the fact that he hasn't been in the ring since then, his comeback fight would be butterflies, nervousness, wanting to perform, wanting to put what happened with Crawford behind him, wanting people to see him the same way they used to always see him. And I mean, a lot of times that's easier said than done. And truthfully, at this point in his career, people going to look at that Crawford fight. They're going to look at what beat him. They're going to look at what he did wrong. They're going to look at all of that. And when you are a top-level guy, people watch you far more than you watch them. So we'll see how things go. Anyway, like I said, I'm expecting the same Erol Spence. Talk to me in the comment section, y'all. Never fall in love with lies. Remember, the truth brings hate out of people, and I will catch y'all on the next video.